Sure.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. So we left off in God's emissaries when Nabi Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, they went to talk with Fir'aun, and they were having discussion with Fir'aun. Fir'aun, he was started asking Musa about who is this God you were talking about. So you mentioned something about a Lord of all the realms or all the worlds, Rabb al-Alameen. He said, what is this, Rabb al-Alameen that you speak of? So he said that the Egyptians had made a mythology that had a lot of different gods, Lord of, rain and wind and earth and sky and whatever type of thing you can think of. And that, they were all dependent. All these things were dependent on each one of those gods. And that Pharaoh said that he was the highest of these Egyptian gods. So he said that Musa replied, well, they did believe in one singular God before that in the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, but the time had lapsed and they are not thinking about that. They had come up with this other idea. Every time is this problem. Prophet comes, then the people fade away from this, and then another prophet come and call them back to this thing, and it's going on and on and on. So he said that Musa said, he is the Lord of the sky and the earth and all that is between them. If you seek the path of to certainty, ayat in Quran, says Fir'aun said to the people around him, don't you hear like this nonsense? This guy is rambling on and talking about this stuff doesn't make any sense. So Musa ignored him and he said, he is your Lord and the Lord of your forefathers. So when he mentioned the forefathers of Fir'aun, he asked another question about what Musa said earlier. He said, you mentioned something about punishment awaiting whoever turns away from this message of yours. Then what about the generations who passed before? How is this Lord of the worlds going to bring to justice those who have already turned into dust? The same thing has been mentioned in Quran, Surah Yasin, like how will the Allah bring back the bones of the people, and Allah is able to do anything. It isn't easy for him. So Musa alayhi salam said, knowledge of them and all that they did is with my Lord recorded in a book. My Lord neither botches their records nor forgets them. He is the one who made the earth level and accessible for you, made roads therein for you, and sent down water from the sky, and with it brought forth various kinds of vegetation, and told you, eat from this and graze your cattle, and all of that are signs for those with intellects. This also from Quran, Surah Taha, ayat 54. He said, from the earth has he created us, into the earth we will go, and from the earth we will be brought forth once again. And he hoped that Fir'aun would realize that a God who could create and nurture the universe, and all its aspects, could easily resurrect and carry out judgment. It would be something easy for Allah. So then Fir'aun, he didn't find any rational argument to refute Musa. So he lashed out at Musa and started attacking his character rather than answering the questions that Musa had for him. So he said, this messenger who has been sent to you is Majnun, or crazy, or mad, insane. So he couldn't answer, so he just started insulting. And this is what people do when they cannot answer you. They turn the argument into insults and start trashing the other person, speaking bad about them, and they don't answer any of the questions. They just start attacking. Either this mode or they leave the topic and they jump to another topic. So I know in debates, most of the only successful ones are that you have to stay on topic and come to a conclusion on this subject without jumping to other subject. Don't run away from this subject, finish it and agree to the point, and then we move to other subject. But most people, they won't do that. When they can't answer, they'll start jumping around, or they do, like in this case, they start insulting the other person and calling them names and other things. So this is what Musa is bringing the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to him. And now he is being called insane and crazy and mad and all of these things for just relaying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see that all of the prophets had to deal with this type of behavior from their people. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was no exception. He had to deal with the most difficult people. People would swear at him, people would throw trash on him, people would throw stones at him, they would call him a liar, they would call him a magician. Imagine how hard that must be, knowing that you have revelation from the creator of all things, and that you have talked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but everyone denies you and they call you crazy. Imagine this, they are seeing it clearly. They have yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know they have revelation. They have met angel. And, the Prophet saw things so clearly, but those people who rejected them, they saw things like if they had a veil over their eyes. And it's hard when you see things very clearly, but, and you want to warn other people about those things, but you only can watch them fall into the trap that you tried to warn them about. It happens a lot. Even, for example, older person has made mistakes in life or saw other people make mistakes in life, and they want to warn a younger person. Don't do that. If you go down that road, it's going to be a bad road for you, and you're going to encounter a lot of hardships and do all of these things. And you want to help them, but and you try to help them, but sometimes they have a veil over their eyes. You warn someone not to do something, they ignore your advice and think that they know all of the answers, and then you wish they wouldn't do that thing, but they still go on, and then you have to watch them go through hardships. And maybe in this case, he's seeing things very clearly. He wants the best for Fir'aun, and he's calling him to the path of Allah, and he knows this path is the correct path, but he has to watch Fir'aun and all the other people and go their own way and go towards destruction. It's very hard to deal with that. Imagine, the passion and compassion and mercy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, calling people, and then he wishes that he could save them, but these people are going away from him and worshiping idols and doing other things that he knows clearly has no benefit for them. So it's very hard on someone who sees things very clear to watch someone with a veil over their eyes make the wrong decisions and wrong moves. So again, Musa turned a deaf ear to that insult. He didn't let it faze him. And he said, he is the Lord of the East and the West and whatever is between them. If only you would use your reasoning, you would only think. He said, beyond the limits of his patience, having cast aside his, all of this reason, Fir'aun, he said, if you dare take up a god other than me, I will cast you in my dungeon. So Fir'aun is so arrogant that he said that you cannot worship any other god, that you need to worship me. He said Musa realized that no amount of talk would convince this Fir'aun. So he fell back to his other mode, because he's trying to reason with him and talk with him is no avail. So he started to use the miracles, the mu'jiza that the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. So he said, what if I show you something clear? undeniable sign that I am a messenger of Allah. So Fir'aun is like, okay, so what's this? Let me, I'm interested. Let me see what you're going to do. So he said, go ahead. If you're truthful, let me see what your miracle is. So Musa uttered something that Allah had told him, that and he threw down his staff, and his staff became a serpent. Fir'aun and his court, the people in his court, they were scared. And their eyes were looking at this snake. When Musa placed his hand under his arm and he pulled out his hand, then it turned white. Um, so all the people could see this, and I imagine it was very shocking for them. So they saw the serpent, they saw the hand, the hand glowing, and then Musa felt that his miracles had done enough work. They did their job. So he let the whiteness fade from his hand, and he put his hand on the snake, and the snake turned back into his staff. So Musa made it clear to them that he spoke the truth and that he drew his power from a higher being, something other than Fir'aun. Obviously, he got his power from the Lord of the worlds. So he didn't want to seize power. Musa is not coming to take Fir'aun's government or his position as a king or a pharaoh or any of these things. So he promised the pharaoh, Fir'aun, he said, I'll let you keep your government. I'm not coming here to try to take your government from you or to take your kingdom or to take your position. I just want you to, submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to become a Muslim, to believe in Allah and submit to his commands. So the Fir'aun, his head is like spinning, seeing all these miracles and hearing these words from Musa. So for a moment, he wanted to submit to Musa's God. He was willing to submit, but his advisor, Haman, he saw that Fir'aun was breaking. So he deterred him and he said, how can you be a God to be worshipped if you answer to a slave? And these words made Fir'aun's whole demeanor change. And he had his guards take Musa and Harun out of the court so he could meet with his advisors in private, have private meeting with his advisors on what he should do. And this is what affects many people. The statement, what will others think of me? Fir'aun was worried about his reputation, even if he knew deep down that Musa alayhi salam had brought the truth. He couldn't submit because how it would appear to others. We should think about what Allah would be pleased with and not worry about other people's opinions, if they are against the creators. Imagine so many people, they would want to submit to Islam and convert to Islam, but then they say, what will my family think about me? What will my co-workers think about me? What will my friends think about me? What will society think about me? And on and on and on. What will all these people think about? And they don't care to think about what what the pleasure of Allah is, what will please Allah. We have to let our intentions, all of our intentions, while we're doing good actions, we're doing righteous actions, be only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no one else. What have people gained who please the people, but they displease Allah? They get nothing. And they only get people's, you can say like pleasure of the people or their stamp of approval. But, what about those people? They displeased people with their decisions, and they lost the admiration of people, but they pleased Allah. That's what matters. As long as they gain the pleasure of Allah and they know they're doing the right thing, we cannot please everyone. No one is, if you please one person, someone else going to be displeased with you about something else. And we've mentioned this story many times. I'm not going to repeat it again here, but we remember the story of Luqman and his son when they're walking with their mule through the marketplace. So we cannot please everyone. The main thing is we have to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Fir'aun would have thought why do I care what this other person thinks of me or what society thinks of me? And this is what happened with the Arabs that were in Mecca. They did not want to be on the same level as their slaves because they thought themselves higher and more sophisticated and more better than everyone else. So Islam said that, Bilal and Abu Sufyan, no matter he has all this money and is a tribe, and a leader of his tribe and all of these other things, how can he be equal with Bilal? Ethiopian slave. He couldn't accept that he was the same. Everyone is the same level because Allah has said that He created nations and tribes, to get to know each other, and that also that the best of us in the sight of Allah is the one who is most pious, the one who fears Allah the most. So it does not matter, these other things. It matters what our actions are and seeking the pleasure of Allah. The one who is closer to Allah, this is the only one that is better than the other one. So he didn't want to be looked down on by his society. And we have to make sure that when we make decisions, we are not thinking of this firsthand. We should be thinking about what does Allah say? What does Prophet say? What do the Imams say? And this is what our main objective in life. As long as we keep this straight, then it's okay. He said, when they were gone, Musa and Harun, Fir'aun turned to his council. Then he said, "Are you not amused by these two? They dare place conditions on me keeping my kingdom. Like, who are they to tell me we'll let you keep your kingdom?" And they said, "Who are they?" He said, "Who are they to put conditions on me keeping my kingdom and my honor?" He said, "They are as you see in such a state of poverty and dishonor because they don't come from, they don't have a lot of riches and wealth." So he said, "Look at these people, they're poor people telling me about me keeping my kingdom." He said, "Why haven't they come to me decorated with bracelets of gold and all the nice things and all of these, fancy things that they had at that time?" He said this because he thought the world, of his own possessions that he had, the gold he had, and he looked down on them because they had like woolen clothes on and not fancy silk robes, for example, with jewels and crowns and all of these things. He said, if Allah had wanted to lay open for the prophets who he sent his treasuries and mines of gold and his fruit-laden gardens, if he had wanted to surround them with the birds of the sky and the beasts of the lands, he would have done so. But if he had done so, there would be no test. There would be no test for the people to follow. One of it reminds me of the narrations, because the prophets and the imams, they didn't have a lot of wealth. And the people, for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in the valley of Abu Talib in exile. The people still follow him, or will they leave him? This is the test. He is in a palace somewhere. Everyone want to go there and embrace in the good times, but will they be with them in the difficult times? This is the test. And this is why we see that they are not having all of these riches and all of this wealth. And those who did have wealth, they used it and they did not really care for their wealth. They spent their wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see that it reminds me of narration about Imam Hadi alayhi salam. It says, Saleh ibn Sa'id, so he said, I went to go see Imam Hadi alayhi salam, or 10th Imam. And he said, Ya Sayyidi, my master, in every situation, they want to degrade your status. They want to decrease your rights so that they have accommodated you in such a bad room, such a bad living condition, which is for the poor. It's a very bad place they have put you. Imam said, son of Sa'id, is that the level of your wisdom? Then he pointed by his hand to the other side of the room and he said, "Look." The narrator says, "When I looked, I suddenly saw green gardens with some nymphs and boys as beautiful as pearls inside shells. I also saw birds, several deer and stream, which astonished me." Then the Imam said, "Wherever we are, such things are ready for us. We are not living in the poorhouse." He's saying that if they wanted these things, they are available to them. That they are, no one can put them in that position like that. But they are not using those things. They're not in want of those, and they don't need those things. Also, I remember one of the other imams. It was with one of his companions, and they were complaining about being poor and the imam not having things, and he moved his hand over the earth on the ground where they were, and the companion saw down into the ground. He showed them all of these jewels and minerals and all of these things, and he said, "These are at our disposal if we want them." But then he mentioned the imam of our time, Imam Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. He said that when he comes, he will utilize these things in the best of ways for during his time. Allahumma ajjala waliyaka al-faraj. Inshallah, may Allah hasten reappearance of the Imam. So the Imams had access to these things if they wanted them, but they were not in need of these things, are not really concerned with these things. So prophets and imams, they're not concerned with these things, these materialistic things, unless they have an aim to reach with something with this, helping someone else or something like that. But their concern is more with the spiritual well-being of people and their connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a lot of times money distracts individuals. I remember one time with the Prophet, this companion came to him and asked him for money. And this companion used to be every Friday in Jummah and every Salatul Jama'ah, he was there, and he was always around, and he was poor. And he asked Prophet to give him some money. And the Prophet made dua for him to get wealthy. Then he came very wealthy, had a business, and then he was doing very well in his business. And then the person, they don't see him anymore. They said, "Where is this guy? I haven't seen him around." He got so busy, he quit coming around to pray Jama'ah. He quit coming around for Salatul Jum'ah and other things, He got, because he just wanted to go after the wealth. So sometimes wealth is a test, it could be good for you, it could be bad for you. So sometimes, if we had a lot of money, maybe we would be different. Maybe we would act different. Or maybe someone has money, they're good, but if they go to be poor, maybe they will be different. Maybe they will start committing haram to get money. It's all different tests for different people. So he said, if Allah had given Musa all these things, and there would be no test for people to follow him or not. There would be no reward for passing those tests. The tidings of reward and punishment would be meaningless. Those who accepted the prophets would no longer deserve the reward of those who succeed against trials and tribulations and struggles. The believers would no longer deserve the reward of the righteous. Then he admitted to his people in his courtyard who were around him, Fir'aun, he said, "Indeed, Musa is a skilled sorcerer. He's using magic." Then he said, "He seeks to expel you from your land with this magic. So what do you advise?" So he couldn't, accept that Musa, this person of what he thought was a low position, wants to be over, is saying that he is above his position, of Fir'aun's position, and that he is in communication with the Lord of all the universe. So he has to come up with something else. So he says what most of these people said against the prophets when they saw them do miracles: "Oh, this person is a magician." So at first, those people were silent. Then they said, "He is, as you say, a skilled sorcerer. And he does, as you say, want to expel us away from this land with this magic." So he said, leave him and his brother alone for a while and send out people to every city to bring every skilled sorcerer that they have, the best of the best. Then Fir'aun and his advisors, they hoped that they would advise, Fir'aun hoped that his advisors would order him just to kill Musa, but they didn't, because the reason behind this, it says that all of these advisors were from legitimate birth, and no one had audacity to kill the prophets of Allah except those who were born illegitimately. So we see here that Fir'aun, he brought Musa and Harun back in. So he told them, what you shown us with these things that you have done with this serpent and with your hand glowing, this is clearly sorcery. So Musa, he said back to him, is this what you say about truth when it stares you in the face? Do you really think that this was some sort of sorcery? Because it was not, because sorcerers don't succeed. They are not on the right way. So Fir'aun, he persisted and he asked rhetorically, he said, have you two come to dissuade us from the religion of our forefathers and to establish yourself like supremacy in this land, to be higher than everyone else? Because we believe this is your motive, that you want to take our kingdom and put yourself in this position, and that you want to use your magic and these things. And he said, we will never believe in you. He said, rather, we're going to counter your magic with our magic. So let's set a day for a contest between us and you, and you have to be there, and we'll be held outside where everyone can see. And Musa saw that this guy was not going to reason with him, and he didn't want to talk about anything. And there was no other way and no other option to go with him. So he proposed that the day of the contest will be the day of adornment, with the people gathered together at the high noon. So now they have basically like a standoff where they're going to come and compete against each other. And Musa will show them that what he is doing is the truth, and what sorcerers do is falsehood. So weeks went by, and Fir'aun and the advisors, they made their preparations, they got ready, and Fir'aun summoned 1,000 magicians. He tested them and he narrowed it down to 100 who were the best of them. Then he tested them again, narrowed it down to 80. So Fir'aun told his sorcerers, everything that was going to happen, that they needed to do. And they told him, you know that there is no one more skilled in magic than us. If we defeat Musa in this contest, then what will be our reward? Is there a reward if we're, victorious in this thing? So Fir'aun, he said, of course. In that case, you will be my closest counselors, and I shall share my power with you. So they offered him position. So they said, and if Musa defeats us and overpowers our magic, then we will know that he is not a magician, or it's not some sort of illusion, and we will have no choice but to believe in him and confirm his prophethood. So Fir'aun, he said, if Musa defeats you, I will also confirm his prophethood with you. Like Fir'aun is like, this is never going to happen. Don't worry about it. And if it happens, I also, believe in his prophethood. So he said it won't happen, and prepare yourselves for a great festival and a great victory. So the day of adornment, it came. All the Egyptians are ready for this. Imagine it's some big festival in your city, and everyone's waiting for this thing, and all the people are coming for this, to see this contest that they've heard about. We can say like the main attraction of the event, with Fir'aun's 80 magicians against Musa, alayhi salam. So they made a big deal about this. and they made a pavilion for Fir'aun and his advisor Haman and all the other advisors. And they said that Fir'aun was decked out with all the finest clothes. And when he had these tiny plates of polished metal, so when he stepped into the sun, the whoever looked at him, the reflection of the sun, the rays of the sun would, shoot back at the people, and it would blind them to even look at him. So it was this kind of false way to make himself seem like the highest person there. So they gathered the people together, and then Fir'aun set the stage for that contest. He explained what was going to happen. He introduced Musa and Harun, and they had very simple clothes on. And he told his people, "Oh, my people, do the kingdom of Egypt and these rivers that run at my feet not belong to me? Do you not perceive?" This ayat from Quran of what Fir'aun said. He says, "Am I not better than this vile person who cannot even speak clearly?" This is mentioned in Quran, and the footnote here, it says that most scholars construe his insult as a reference to a speech impediment Musa had as a child, which was removed by Allah when he made him a prophet. And the author of the book, he says, in my view, since he had no impediment, his insult may have been aimed at something very petty, that just like Musa's accent, for example. Perhaps, he says, after he moved away from Egypt for 10 years, he acquired an accent. And Fir'aun was, he said, using like xenophobia and saying, "Look at this guy. How is he going to rule Egypt? He doesn't even talk like us. He talks with a different accent, It's like someone who moves from one region to the other, like, for example, if you ever heard my father talk, you would think that he was a Southerner all the way. He has a very strong Southern accent, but my father's from Massachusetts, and but he's been in the South for 30 plus years, and he has a Southern accent. So imagine, someone who moved from the North to the South. Now they have a Southern accent, and they go back to their home state up north. They go to New York or Boston or one of these places, and they come back and they said, "Look at this guy. He can't even talk right, because of the accent." So the author of the book believes this is the case, but there are some narrations that Musa had a speech impediment when he was younger, and he had a lisp because Fir'aun tested him with some jewels and some fire embers, and he touched the fire ember and it burnt his tongue, because if he would have went after the jewels, Musa would have killed him, because he said, "This is the baby wants to come after my kingdom." So when he took the coal and put it, he touched his tongue to the coal, he said, "Oh, this is just a harmless child." We have some narrations about this. Then footnote is saying that even if this is the case, that we accept this, that Allah removed it when he became a prophet and he didn't have this speech impediment. Anyway, this is not really of any relevance to like importance that we have to go one way or the other. This is something interesting, that I found. He mentioned it in the footnote. So Fir'aun, he says, "Why have no bracelets of gold been on this person? Like, why doesn't he have any jewelry to match my type of jewelry that I have? Why didn't the angels come escorting him here if he's a prophet?" So he got the crowd like hyped up, and he shook his fist in the air and he told his people, "I am your highest Lord." In this way, he made like fools of all the people, and they obeyed him. His people, they were doing a lot of sins, and they would have never obeyed him if they had listened to their conscience, meaning that they had sinned so much that they had dulled their conscience. So they are not listening to their conscience anymore, because their conscience, their self-reproaching self has been dulled and numbed, and their hearts have been covered with rust. But if they had been listening to their conscience and avoiding these sins, then they would have had a better chance, and they would have listened to their conscience. But they are following Fir'aun. So Musa interjected. He said, "May Allah punish you. Do not fabricate a lie against Allah, or He will annihilate you with a great punishment. He who fabricates lies will surely fail." On hearing this, the sorcerers started arguing with one another about Musa. He said, "For many believe these were not the words of a mere sorcerer. These were some words of someone higher than a sorcerer." So Fir'aun told the people, he said, "These two men are sorcerers whose goal is to kick you out of your land using this sorcery and to do away with your outstanding way of life." This is the threat that people use, that, oh, they are coming to make you leave your culture and to get rid of you and to do away with your great way of life and replace it with their way. So they threatened them and made them afraid of this. So they're afraid to listen to anything of what they have to say. So he said, "Therefore, I call on the sorcerers of Egypt to summon their ingenuity and then come forward in ranks. Whoever has the upper hand on this day will be prosperous." Then to entice his sorcerers, he said, "Perhaps we shall follow the sorcerers if they become victorious." So now we have the battle, we can say, about to take place between Musa and these 80 sorcerers, and to see which one will be victorious, what will take place in this contest or competition or battle between these group of people against Musa. And we run out of time, and inshallah in the next class we'll talk about what happened in this, what was the outcome of this confrontation between Musa and these 80 sorcerers, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.